Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be presenting on uh, so I'm going to be presenting Ponzi schemes. So this presentation will mainly cover four aspects. First being what is a Ponzi scheme. Second, the history of Ponzi schemes. Third, one of the most famous Ponzi schemes of India. And lastly, how to recognize a Ponzi scheme. So starting off with what is a Ponzi scheme. It's basically a form of a fraud that lures investors and pays profits to early investors with funds from more recent ones. And it leads victims to believe that their profits are coming from product sales or any other such means. And the source of their funds are actually the other investors. So go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is basically a pyramid which has three levels. The first being that the schemer promises the investors a return on the investment for each month that their money is with the firm. Level two is since the investors are receiving the money on the first money which they have put in, news starts to spread and they start beginning to tell their families and friends about the scheme that they tried, and recruitment follows. And level three is that the investment has been successful in the first few months and it convinces more and more people to place money in the system and the chain grows. Moving on to the history of Ponzi schemes. So it basically, the scheme was named after Charles Ponzi, who worked various jobs in the early 1900s, but he didn't last long in any of them. And it was during this period that he realized that he wanted to create a scheme which would make him gain a lot of profit from that scheme. So he received a letter in the mail from a Spanish company which contained a reply coupon, which could be basically exchanged for a number of airmail postage stamps worth much more than what someone would pay for it in some other country. So he realized that he could turn this into a profit by exchanging them in one country for a more expensive stamp in some other country. So how did this work? He would basically send money to the agents would buy the reply coupons with the money that he would send them, and they would be in all different countries. And after buying the coupons, they would send them back to the US where he would be, and he would then exchange the coupons for the stamps worth much more than he had paid for, and then sell those stamps. And he reportedly made more than 400% on some of these sales. He was not satisfied with the scheme which was running. So he began to seek investors to turn even higher profits. And he promised them outrageous returns like 50% in 45 days and 100% in 90 days. He paid these investors using the money from the other investors instead of the actual profit, which he kept for himself. So does anyone want to guess how much he made in one day? You can just take a guess. You can raise the hand feature. Yeah, Johan.
Like $100 million.
Okay, that was a good guess, but it was actually $250,000. And we need to remember that this was the early 1900s, which was probably like a century ago. And this sum had a lot more value than it does today. Moving on to one of the most famous Ponzi schemes of India, the Sahara Scam. It was one of the biggest corporate scams in India, and this scam only came to limelight because of the conflict got between the Sahara Group and the SEBI, which is the Stock Exchange Board of India, in a heated fire for almost 5 years. So Subrata Roy, who was the founding chairman of the Sahara Group, earlier had a business of he had a business with chit fund, and basically what he would do was he would increase the money of the wage workers in rural areas by providing them some interest on the money which they would submit to him as a means to carry out the duty of a bank in rural areas. However, the key difference between the previous business and the Sahara Group was that he actually did return the money to the wage workers with the previous business. One minute, next slide. But soon he realized that he could fool these people because they had no idea how the scheme was working, and they were blindly trusting him. And with the Sahara group, he had already earned that trust. So he just did not pay the profits back to these wage workers and kept it all for himself. Now, how long did the scheme go on for? It went on for almost 30 years, and 2010 to 2016 was the most important part of it. Lastly, how to recognize a Ponzi scheme. 5 red flags. The first being that they say that there is no risk or there is very little risk, but you will always get a return on time and the same value. That is not possible, because whenever you put your money into something, there's always some risk with it. Fixed returns. If they tell you that you're going to get your fixed returns month on month, you should be able to tell that won't be true, because the market can go down, you can lose all your money could double also. So you will never get the exact amount that you paid, which is also a red flag. Ask them if they're registered or not. If they aren't registered, do not be a part of the scam. The fourth, no proof. So if you ask them for some kind of paperwork or any proof basically which shows that they're an actual like a firm or like a proper business, and they say that they can't show you anything at all, you should not be a part of it, because you need to have some proof. And lastly, it's the simplest. If you do not understand the concept of how it's working or what your role is in this, do not put your money in it, because there's no point of risking your money for something that you don't know, like you aren't sure of. So that was it. These are some of the sources I used for to make this presentation. Thank you. Are there any questions?